Watch the ride.
Hey everybody, you may have noticed in my recent videos I've been wearing a different pair of gloves in nearly every video. I've been switching around different pairs, trying them out to see what I think of them, because basically MRT have sent me these gloves and here's a little review on them. Just to put things into perspective first, these are the gloves I normally use. These are some Knox Handroids. These cost £200 a pair. They're expensive gloves. But you don't always want high-end, you might not be able to afford that, and you might not want to spend that much, so you can go for cheaper gloves. And to be honest with you, for 30 quid, because that's how much these gloves are per pair, they're really good. I've not been a fan of cheap gloves in the past. You know, you can look at my history of gloves, and I've always ended up spending money. Because the cheap ones just were never made right, and the cut wasn't right and stuff like that. But these are actually pretty good. In fact, yeah, it is these ones. I've noticed a lot of similarities actually in this glove, and I'm putting it on the wrong hand. There's a lot of similarities between this glove and the Alpine Star SP1 that I used to love. You got the same flex leather here, you got the same perforations, very similar fingers. You know, these feel very much like the Alpine Star gloves. Yeah, obviously, if you look at them up close, you can tell they're cheaper gloves, but they're very comfortable. They do have a liner in them, like a soft liner, but unlike other cheap gloves that I've tried, it isn't loose. Because I've had it where it's like a cheap liner which goes inside the glove and can just like come out, and it's terrible. These are really comfy, nice and soft, don't get too hot. The leather is a reasonably heavy leather. It's not nearly as heavy as sort of, you know, something like this. But to be fair, it's not far off. Obviously, these have got the wrist guards on them. Well, it's softish plastic, but there is some protection there for a slide when you're going down the road. You know, you got your hard pieces of plastic in the palms, and your vented knuckles and vents at the back of the hand. You know? So they're the speeds. Then you've got these, which are the storms, and these are a bit like those. If you look, they're actually very similar, apart from they've just got less protection on them, but not a lot less, to be fair. Although these, I'll note, are much more vented. Look, you've got vents in the end of the fingers. I think these are also known as the summer gloves, because they're so vented. But again, you know, you've got multiple layers of leather going through the palm, nice big thick spongy parts, so when you do put your hand down, you know, it's going to give you some protection, and also when you're riding, that gives you some vibration protection. But yeah, again, a perfectly adequate pair of gloves, but I really like the cut of them. But the ones that I've absolutely fallen in love with are these. They're little lightnings, you know, they're short cuffed ones. There's not a huge amount of protection on them. Well, there is. There's these hard pieces here. There's some vents in the fingers here. There's no real palm protection. It's just soft. So they're not the highest protection gloves. However, I don't always want to wear full-on armoured gauntlets like this. I always have done, but they're quite big, they're bulky. When you get in a shop, you know, you've got two of these under your arm. It's quite a lot to carry around. I found myself genuinely, even you've seen it in the videos, grabbing these just because I really like them for when I'm riding around town. And it also means that I'm not putting as many miles on my more expensive gloves, which I tend to use these when I'm, you know, if I'm going to go for a long ride on the motorway, now I'm going to be going for a bit of a more spirited ride, I would wear those. But when it comes to just getting around town, you just need a basic pair of gloves. I'm quite happy to use these. As I say, guaranteed they're not going to give you as much protection as a big full-on gauntlet like this. But, you know, for road rash purposes, they're gonna protect your hands for a while. I mean, there is some padding in the palm, not a huge amount, but they're just really nice and stretchy and comfortable. When it's been a nice warm day, yes, because spring is on its way, getting the sort of breeze up your arm is nice. Yes, obviously you're going to have this patch where you're not overlapping between your jacket and your wrist, and that is one of the reasons that I didn't like using anything other than the gauntlet style. But when I had a pair of these, I was like, do you know what, I can justify the risk when it comes to just riding around town, because I just really like them. There is one thing about these gloves, though, that I will note, and that is if you notice the side of this finger is gone a bit fuzzy. The reason for that is, and this was a bit of a design flaw when they made them, but hopefully for reiterations they may change the material. When you go to undo this, this material gets pulled by this, so it does fluff up the side of these fingers. At first that really annoyed me, but then once I realised these were like, don't care about them gloves, they're just to get around town, you know, stop putting so many miles on my more expensive gloves, I was like, do you know what, it's fine. And it isn't pulling the material apart as in it's like weakening it, I don't think. It's just fluffed up the surface. So I'm not saying that these gloves are the highest protection or the best made gloves out there, but for 30 quid, and don't forget you can get 5% off on top of that with code extra5-spicy110. All the information's in the description. I do get a little kickback from that, but I'm being completely honest with you. You know, I'm using these in my own hands, and I'm the one, you know, I've always been on about how I don't like anything other than gauntlet styles, and I've just fallen in love with these little things. They're great. Yeah, as I say, in the price range, I've just never seen anything that I liked quite as much. And I say most of it is the fit. They're cut really well, and they just fit me really nicely, and they're really nice to ride with. So, what more can I say? If you're interested in some of these gloves, or you're interested in some of their cheaper Kevlar jeans, you can, again, get 5% off on their website with my code. Basically 5% off everything on their website. They've got armoured hoodies, gloves, all sorts of stuff. Go and check them out. So yeah, if you're after some basic gloves, or you're after a pair to help protect your more expensive ones during the, you know, the mundane getting around the shops type stuff, good call, in my opinion. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, and I'll catch you next time.